Well, I succumbed to the APTs as they're on offer and they'd all been reduced. I couldn't resist it, but it does come with its faults, let's say. So stay tuned and I'll show you what I've done to improve it. Well, welcome back to Piccadilly Model Railways. And who'd ever think it, an APT-P on Piccadilly sidings. You'd never think it would ever happen. I have to say, I wanted one of these from the off, but then I saw the price, nearly £500 for a 5-car train. I thought there's no way in a million years am I going to spend that much on a 5-car train. It's just not happening. So then I saw a video by Jenny Kirk the other day and saying that these were on special offer or reduced to clear, I would think. And I also started looking for some extra carriages to go with it. And I found Kernow Model Centre was selling them off at £50 a pair. Couldn't believe it. So I had to snap those up. So I've got myself a 9-car set here. 8-car will fit. So when I turn it off and store it on the traverser, I have to take one carriage off. So that's not the end of the world, is it? My part is to see what can I do to make it better, because the interiors on these are just horrendous. Hornby, in their great wisdom, decided to release it with a plain blue interior and a plain red interior. No paintwork whatsoever on them. They're just all red or all blue, and it has an effect on the overall light. So let's take a look at that and then I'll explain what I'm going to do. You can see the lighting coming from the train is very different from the first class coach to the second class coaches. And that is basically because Hornby, in their great wisdom, used a very blue base for the carriage seating, and it was all red in the second class seating. And it's literally all red, all blue. The floor, the seats, everything. They've not put any detail in there whatsoever. So that is a slight disappointment. But so I'm going to show you now the interior that I've created. And right, so there's the interior of the first coach that I've done. And you can see it does look considerably different to the way that it would have come. Obviously the tables have been painted, and that one not particularly well either, never mind. But you can see, or hopefully you can see, the tartan patterns. You'll see on each of the seats there is a headrest, which is 3D printed. Now they are about 3mm wide by 2mm high. So I'm used to N-gauge, and this again takes it to a whole new realm of insanity. And obviously people in there. And you may be able to make out that the tables are also edged with silver. Okay, obviously if you look really closely then you'll see the blemishes, but generally speaking I'm quite pleased with that. You'll probably realise these are the cheap Chinese figures that you can get, and what I've done is basically just taken each one as it is. If it does need a repaint, then fair enough. If the paint is obviously awful, but generally speaking I've repainted the faces and the hair and the hands, and then stuck them in. I've had to cut the legs off to get them in, but then gone over each one with some of these Citadel coloured washes, and I think actually they seem to have come out quite well. Again, considering each of the different poses, I'll try and, yeah, those ones for example. So you can see the contours of the clothing. And not only that, the wash is toned down the really ridiculous, vibrant colours. There's a guy wearing a suit there, and there's a lady with a baby. So I think, to be honest, you know, it'll be all right. They're in the coaches and you'll hardly ever see them, but I'm quite pleased with the way that's turned out. Right, so I've got the buffet car here, and you might be able to pick out that's got red seating inside it. Obviously, it'd be better to show you one of both, and then you can see the difference in the lighting if there is any. So anyway, the way to undo it, there's 4 screws to that end and to that end. So obviously they come out, and then it's a case of snapping off the body. Right, so the best way to do this, I just find put my fingernail in and sort of pull and push at the same time. Manage to get the others off. There we go, like that. And it's just a case of pulling it out, and the thing is, once you've got one off, then the rest tend to pop off. Now, just be careful, bogey end, because obviously there's one bogey. Bogey end, the wires do tend to go up through to the lighting bar at the top, so that needs to be desoldered from in there. Right, there we go. You can see the starting of the paint work. They're both primed with the white primer that's remained in. This was then painted over with a beige colour, and I'm using B&M paints these days. They're cheaper. Other shops seem to have put their prices up by quite a lot. I'm really not happy with the quality at the moment, but this is just the first stage. All those walls will be painted white, as opposed, you know, according to the right colours. This will be painted a deep red colour, which is pretty much that. That wall, I understand, is the same red, and so on and so on. So there's quite a bit of work to do. Now, the other part of it as well, if I turn this round, you'll realise that that is the buffet area, and behind here there are some like wimpy Burger King type style displays that were on the wall. In there was a sink, and I think in that one there was work surface. I've got to check with the original working drawings that are online, but I will 3D print something to go in there, because obviously I want it to look complete. Right, there we go. That's the basic painting of the buffet car, and obviously the seats have got to have all the tartan transfers on, and just to remind you, I've painted them so that there's no garish white showing through, so at least as the seat covers are red, then there's a base coat of red in case there is any gaps. I just thought I'd show you that was the first class seat maquette that I made up using the images that are online. So obviously I can't show you those because they're copyrighted, so I'll just show you the second class, and that's the second class. Right, onto the transfers. So that's the first class all printed off now, and I mean, up close you can really see the tartan, but obviously you've got to remember that this is only 20mm wide by 6mm, or 5.5mm to be honest. Right, so you'll see that I've put in a few of the seats already, or a few of the transfers. So just going to do the next one. So you want to put some of the transfers in the water. You can see it just there, around about 40 seconds. And I'm just going to peel that. That's gone a bit too far over, so just peel it back a bit. Grab a hold of it. Switch over to the scalpel. Gently tease it down. So there's a bit of an overlap. Now it's gone too far down, so I'm just going to bring that up a bit, like that, and just push it into the contours. Right, so there's the headrests. So you can see them just here. They've just come off the printer. So they are made by 3mm wide by 2mm deep, and there is a slight doming effect. So right, so I'm ready to stick the figures in. Obviously I'm not going to sit here and show you literally every single thing, but I'm just going to plonk them. Oh, forgot to cut the legs off. So sadly she ends up a bit decapitated, but that's the way life is, I'm afraid. When you're a little plastic person, you sit in a train. Oh, you got a chuckle at you. Now, these two I've put in the same uniform. Actually, will she fit in? She might. Right, the final 5 coach interiors are now complete. This is the third time I've shot this particular video, but clip anyway, purely because I realised I haven't put any people in it. I thought, you know what I mean. Anyway, so I've now used the cheap Chinese figures as I did before. So you can see the carriage now. So with all the little 3D printed headrests and all the people. Some of them have had a complete repaint. Some of them have just had the wash over them and their faces painted. So on and so on. Okay, so that is a first class. And this would be the driving car at one end. Obviously there's a cab there. So you can hopefully make out all the tartan going down the side there. I do think that looks quite smart with the tartan. I can imagine what that would have looked like on the original thing when it's first done, of course. I think would be the half brake, looking at this end here. So again, first class, not many in there. But enough to give the impression there's people. And then we come on to the buffer cars. Now, these are exactly the same, and obviously second class. So what I've done is obviously painted up what Hornby did as best I can according to the photographs I found online, videos, particularly Cheshire Lines. He'd made up his own APT and decorated the interior. I'd previously decided I wanted to use transfers to represent the seat tartan, and looking online, I found his video and he's done exactly the same thing. So it was interesting to see how he's did it, and this is my variant, and you know, so anyway, when you probably noticed, I've put some extra bits in down the back here because I wanted to give the impression of a complete interior. And if, again, walking through the train there would be shelves with stock, bottles and whatever it might be. So that's 3D printed. It's not a complete accurate representation. It is my interpretation of what's there, because it's very difficult to see, even from videos, exactly what's there. Behind there, you've got sinks, or a sink. And this is the bit that's a real interpretation, and I don't think they're like that at all, but again, I've just put that in. There might be ovens at the back there, and obviously some storage at the top. I've had to keep the unit quite low, because at the top here, you'll probably notice there's a cutout running along the whole train for the light bar there. So it's just hopefully making that look a little bit more interesting. Right, I didn't think it would be long before I discovered the capacitor, and you can see that through the windows. Oh, there you go. You can see it from there, and obviously it would be the same the other side. So what I'm going to do is to remove it and then attach wires, red and black wires to it, and I'm going to put it in that vestibule at the end there. So you'd see it if you were looking through the end corridor connection, but to be honest with you, apart from the ends of my layout, which has got radius 2 curves on it, chances of you seeing it are going to be more slim. But the other thing you could do is put some insulating tape, some electrical tape over the end of the vestibule if you wanted to, or even you could actually just put it sort of over there, or put something like a little bit of a barrier over the end of the carriage if you really wanted to. First job then is to remove this circuit board, and there are 2 screws, one at either end. So it's the tiniest little screw you'll ever see. So one, I'm just going to put it there, and then you have to be a bit careful lifting up the capacitor, because the other one's right underneath it, like that. put it there, and then the whole thing should just pop out. And now, I wouldn't say I'm brilliant at electrics, but what I do know is capacitors you've got to be very careful with. The grey section on a capacitor represents the negative side, and you can indeed hopefully see positive and negative actually printed on there. You may or may not be able to make that out just there on the opposite side. But also you've got this grey strip here. So you just got to be a little bit careful. Right, soldering iron's hot now. So I'm just going to gently ease it up. So just sort of bring it one side and sort of ease it until it comes out. There we go. Right, what I've discovered is that once you remove the capacitor, the copper strip on these two holes does tend to wear away quite easily. So what I'm going to do with that is to scrape away a little bit of the copper contact, which is kind of here. So just by scraping off the paint, you'll reveal, there it is, the copper underneath. Okay then, so I'm now going to solder these wires onto the capacitor. So I'm going to tin them like that, and then onto the negative side, and then over there like that's got it. Right, next bit is to use some heat shrink, which is this stuff. So I'm going to cut off, say, a piece like that, just over a centimetre. There we go, it's on. And then I'm just going to run the soldering iron over the top of that, just to sort of melt it down a little bit. Don't have to do a lot. Right, so there it is. So it's a case of now putting it back into the carriage, making sure I get it the right way round. Doesn't want it at that end, like that. And then that can then sit in that general area at the end there. Still need to attach those two wires in there. I won't show you that, but that will just sit kind of like that into one of the vestibules. So it's all protected, so it should be fine. Okay, catch you shortly. Right, so I'm now trying to attach. I've got the capacitor sort of going down in that vestibule area, so gently pushing the wires in. You can kind of see where it's going to end up. Yeah, there we go. And one last snap there. Is that going to get it? Hopefully the screw will hold that in, and hopefully it won't go bang. I joke. Right, I'll get that nipped up and I'll show you shortly. And now for a bit of a pass-by. Buffet there. Power car's coming up. It does sound a bit grumbly when it's going slow. And brake, half brake coming up. Somebody having a bit of a stand up in that carriage. The other buffet car from the other side now. So it just goes to show you can see into the kitchen area. And the final carriage with the driving car on the end. So at the end of the day, has it made a difference to the light? Well, I think it has, and it's evened things out quite a bit. Now, there will be some slight variations because obviously there's some different things behind each window. Like, for example, these two here do look quite orange because you've got wooden panels behind there. If I take you into there, you can see the kitchen area. Yeah, so obviously there's a lot of wood panelling behind there, so it will look slightly more orange, whereas those ones look more normal, if that makes sense. And if I stay down the carriage there's not a massive difference between those two. Slight, but not a lot. Be slightly more noticeable down this end. If you notice the difference between these two and those two, there is a slight difference, but not anywhere near as much as there was with the original seating in there. So I think the original aim of evening out the light has certainly worked, and I obviously think that it's produced a much better interior than what was there before. So I hope you agree, but yeah, I'm very, very pleased with the way that's turned out. And obviously once it's all been weathered up as well, and the train will get done eventually, I think it will make a very big difference to the whole appearance of this iconic train. Okay, anyway, I think I'm going to leave the video there. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will catch you again very, very soon here on Piccadilly Model Railways. Take care of yourself, and bye for now.